cop mistakenly arrests a man, unaware he's the chief judge. What happens when the very system meant to uphold justice becomes blind to its own flaws? Could a routine traffic stop spiral into a nightmarish ordeal, one where the truth is hidden behind a badge and assumptions? How would you feel if you were treated like a criminal in a world where you represent the law itself? It was supposed to be a regular evening. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the city streets, and Judge Khan Patel, a well-respected chief judge known for his strong stance on justice and civil rights, was heading home after a long day at the courthouse. Dressed casually, with his court robes left behind in his chambers, Judge Patel had no clue that his drive home was about to take a dramatic turn. No clue that the very ideals he stood for were about to be tested in ways he never imagined. As he approached an intersection, Patel noticed the flashing lights of a police car in his rearview mirror. He didn't panic. Why should he? A quick routine check, perhaps, but could this ordinary moment become something far more sinister? Could it be that in the eyes of those sworn to protect, even a man of the law becomes another faceless suspect when out of uniform? As Patel pulled over, Officer Jake Daniels stepped out of his squad car with a hardened expression, gripping his flashlight tightly. What did Officer Daniels see when he looked at Patel's car? Was it a broken taillight? A slight swerve on the road? Or something deeper? Something unconscious, like the color of Patel's skin or his Middle Eastern features? Daniels' approach was swift and rigid, as if he'd already made up his mind. Did he know who sat behind the wheel? Did he care to find out? "License and registration," Daniels barked. Patel complied, staying calm, his hands steady, knowing all too well how quickly things could escalate. But why did his heart race? Why, despite his position, did he feel the weight of suspicion pressing down on him? And why was Daniels treating him like a suspect instead of a citizen? The atmosphere grew thick with tension. Daniels glanced at the paperwork Patel handed him but didn't seem to focus on it. Instead, his attention shifted toward Patel's face, narrowing his eyes. Was it just another routine stop, or had something far more dangerous begun to brew in the officer's mind? "Step out of the car," Daniels ordered, his hand now resting on the holster of his gun. Patel hesitated, taken aback by the sudden demand. Was this necessary? Why was a simple traffic stop escalating into something far more aggressive? Patel asked calmly, "Is there a problem, officer?" But Daniels' patience seemed to snap. "Step out of the car, now!" Why was this happening? Was it because Patel didn't fit the profile of someone who belonged in this neighborhood? Was his identity as a person of color overpowering his reality as a respected judge? And what happens when an officer becomes judge, jury, and executioner in mere moments? Things moved faster than Patel could process. Within seconds, he was yanked from his car and slammed against the hood. His arms were wrenched behind his back as Daniels reached for his cuffs. "What's the charge?" Patel asked, wincing from the sudden burst of pain. But Daniels wasn't listening. He was too focused on maintaining control, on exerting his authority. Did he even realize the man he was arresting was the chief judge of the state? Or had his mind already written Patel off as just another criminal? The cold steel of the handcuffs snapped around Patel's wrists, and as they did, a crowd began to gather. Passers-by stopped, some with their phones out, recording the unfolding scene. Was this another example of police brutality? Would Patel, a man who had presided over countless cases of misconduct, now become a headline himself? How quickly can one mistake spiral into disaster? Back at the station, Patel was taken into custody, his rights read to him in the same detached tone he'd heard too many times in his courtroom. But who would believe him if he revealed his true identity now? Would Daniels and his fellow officers even care? As Patel sat in the holding cell, tension brewed within him. How far would this go before someone realized the error? How long could a man, known for doling out justice to others, wait for justice to be served to him? It wasn't until a detective came by with Patel's personal effects that the situation took a turn. The detective, an older officer who had once testified in Patel's courtroom, stared at the name on Patel's ID with wide eyes. Could this be right? Was the man they had just arrested really the Judge Khan Patel? The detective rushed out of the holding area, leaving Patel alone again. But the weight of what was happening began to dawn on him. How many others had sat in this very cell, powerless to stop the wheels of a broken system? Would Daniels now face the consequences of his mistake? Or would the thin blue line protect one of their own, regardless of the damage done? Minutes later, the station was abuzz. Daniels was called into the captain's office, his face paling as the truth was revealed. How do you explain away such a grave error? Do you know who you've just arrested? The captain demanded, his voice sharp and cutting. Daniels stammered, his bravado melting under the weight of his mistake. How could someone so confident in his authority have made such a reckless assumption? And now, how would he face the consequences? Meanwhile, in the holding cell, Patel felt the bitter sting of irony. As an advocate for justice reform, he had fought against racial profiling and police brutality for years. And yet, here he was, caught in the very system he tried to fix. Was this what justice looked like in the eyes of those who wielded power?
If you've watched this far, comment which country you're watching from and leave a 100 in the comment section because you are type of person that likes to finish what they started. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to get notified whenever we drop new videos. Now back to the story.
Patel was released with a swift apology, but was an apology enough to erase what had just happened? Could a few hurried words wipe away the humiliation, the fear, the anger that had boiled inside him during those long minutes in the cell? As he walked out of the station, a part of him wanted to confront Daniels, to demand an explanation. Why had he been profiled? Why had the officer looked at him and seen a threat rather than a respected figure of the law? What would Patel do now? Would he pursue legal action against the department? Would he use his platform to shine an even brighter light on the systemic issues within law enforcement? Or would he be forced to move on? Just another victim in an endless cycle of injustice. As Patel got into his car and drove away, his mind raced. How many other men had been pulled over that day? How many had faced the same unwarranted aggression but didn't have the power or position to fight back? And how many more would suffer before the system finally changed? The questions remained unanswered, hanging in the air like a heavy fog. What happens when the people entrusted to uphold justice fail to recognize the very principles they've sworn to protect? Could this mistake lead to a much-needed reckoning, or would it be swept under the rug like so many before it? In a world where justice can be so easily confused with power, how do we ensure that everyone, from the most ordinary citizen to the highest judge, is treated with the fairness and dignity they deserve?
Comment which country you're watching from, and remember to like, share, and subscribe to get notified whenever we drop new videos.